So just thinking back over the last couple weeks, we had those 2 PLCs where we really planned our lesson and we really broke down our standard. Our standard had multiple skills and nouns, and we just decided to focus on that drawing inferences aspect. After we thought about the drawing inferences, we knew that our kiddos could answer questions from the text when that was explicitly stated, and then we used this graphic organizer to really help us in our learning target development. We wanted them to be able to go through those steps of, you have a question about the story, then you get some text evidence, you have some background knowledge, you make your inference. We broke down the gradual release model, questioning, then teacher model, then that we do together as a class, then they do with partners, and then really they did on their own.
As part of the do, I started with the questions, and we did a couple together. We recorded them, and then they watched me do the model the second day. As we talked about, we wanted to kind of show them what it was supposed to be looking like. The third day, we picked another question that we had together, and we did it as a class, and they found that the proof.
I did mine very similar to you. However, we didn't go over questions as a class together until day 3, which was really interesting because when I modeled on day 2, I modeled with my question, the which brother is who question, and then we talked a lot about like why we're asking this question and things like that. And then on that second day or third day, we did the question list together, and then we decided as a class which question we were going to do together as a class.
And I did the questioning list the first day, and I was actually surprised at how many the kids came up with. And because they did that relatively quickly, I went ahead and did the teacher does section on that first day. Second day, we did the teacher and class together. Third day, partners. Fourth day, kids did on their own, and then on the 5th day, I had them choose a question of their own.
And you stuck with Hurricane the whole time, and I did too. I stuck with the book Hurricane, also the
I
too.
followed our plan for the first 3 days using Hurricane, and then I was kind of losing them. I think we were doing as much as we could with that text. So the 4th day, I borrowed your alternate text, the Twister, and they were with me once again. They were re-engaged, and the whole process of questioning and inferring went smoothly again. And then on Friday was the most fun, I thought, because I took then a chapter book that we have been reading as a whole class and as a read aloud, and I took 2 Post-its. I put a question mark on one and an I on the other for inference. And so the chapter book was Encyclopedia Brown, so each chapter is its own kind of mystery. And so as soon as I got to the part where it was like, oh, something's happening, I stuck the question mark Post-it. And then as we continued on, and as soon as I knew the clues for inferring, I put the I Post-it. And then when they were able to take that and move into their own independent book that last day, I feel like it really wrapped into that together.
And I stuck to our plan of, implementing another text into the conversation, and I found it to be a challenge for my students, which brings us to maybe our reflection of how do we think it went. I think that for me, I found that writing another text maybe wasn't the best idea because it opened up too many conversations that were not good for inferencing. So I think looking back, I'd probably go back and follow on with Hurricane, or maybe the Twister text, or maybe even the read aloud that I have going in my classroom, and not introducing a whole new text to this process.
I think it needed a little more scaffolding and
I think so.
like just sticking with that one story. So looking at just the learning target, I can use text evidence and my background knowledge to make inferences. How did we think like overall that model went? And I mean, looking at my student work, I'm seeing that model was working. I'm just wondering how now, as I get into like their own stories, if they're going to be able to do it. So
I
that's
think
what
the
I'm
structure
starting.
of this model really brought a deeper understanding of this than my kids have had before in the past. It definitely, this lesson went better this year than it has gone in the past because of the structure of the model and how we had thought through each step of it.
Up until now, I had only explained inference as figuring something out, and this just made it very clear into 4 steps to follow, giving something kind of abstract a real procedure.
Right.
And I had the graphic organizer hanging up all week with my learning target, and it just, I could see them like focus in on that learning target, and we made sure that we reviewed it each day. So really referring back to that learning target continually, like I felt it really helped the students.
I thought my kids did a pretty good job. By that point, they had gotten really comfortable with asking a question and narrowing it down to a certain part in the book, and then finding that evidence it was a little bit harder as we got to the background knowledge and so they were really comfortable with the first two pieces. But I felt like, yeah, they need a little bit more help, more scaffolding on those last two pieces.
And that goes back to the beginning of the year because our first unit is so focused on questioning and teaching maybe questioning in a different way. I think that this lesson brings us back all the way to September to think, okay, what are we going to do in September with questioning that will lead to better questioning when we get to inferencing?
Whenever we question at the beginning of the year, we always refer back to our questions and then mark right next to each question as we revisit the story. D, if it was directly answered, I, if you had to infer, or if it was indirectly answered, or question mark if it will take further research or another kind of book to figure it out. And so I think it helped having that, moving into this, knowing we were looking for questions we were going to have to infer, you know, not ones that are just surface level, you can pick right out.